go Halloween shopping. I didn't have to buy any candy this year because we lived in a cul-de-sac out in the middle of a farming community in the outskirts of the city. I moved last year because I've divorced my wife and lost my old house along with custody of James. It's rather the shit end of the stick, but James and I love Halloween. It's one of the few times a year that Tracy finds it accessible for my only son to come visit me. James stays with her on every other holiday throughout the year, his birthday, and everything else in between. I only get to see him only on my birthday in the week preceding Halloween, unless the high bitch court finds it suitable for him to come spend the night every once in a while. Hmm. Frankly, I'm surprised she let him come shopping with me. Upon pursuing the aisles, James showed a strong affinity to a flamboyant green and purple Buzz Lightyear costume. It's really typical for a kid to have an eye for the most expensive thing on the rack, but I didn't have the heart to say no to those bottomless blue eyes. He also picked out all the house decorations. I knew we wouldn't be getting any trick-or-treaters out where I live, but adorning the exterior of our home was always one of our favorite things to do together. It looks like James and I will be having some competition for the best Halloween decorations award, which Allie in this neighborhood is only a pat on the back. When I lived with James and my ex-wife, he and I won the trophy every year since he was 3. Remnants inside, my next-door neighbor is really giving us a run for our money. He did quite the splurge on decorations. He must have ordered everything online because aside from the cliche Happy Halloween banners and the festive treasures found on his house and lawn were nowhere to be seen in the store where James and I shopped, which showed only festive decor. The fellow's garage door sat below a strand of kite string on which hung dozens of expensive-looking bones and skulls. He also placed several other bones stricken straight out of his lawn. There was no color or detail, just random bones placed here and there strewn about his unkempt lawn. Truly, though, he's nothing. While walking through my house at dusk outside the dining room window, I noticed a quick flicker movement dash in and out of my peripherals as I was preparing for James's week-long stay. I inspected. I don't even know I should be glad that I did. I walked back in front of the window and saw the same animation, but this time, in the center of my vision, I walked back away from the window and slowly, I peeked out from the corner of the glass. I made out the shape of the very top of a person's head peering out over the top of my fence, and it seemed to be watching me. Whoever it was ducked down again right before they realized we had made eye contact. I backed away from the window. I don't know why. I crawled over to the family room window, which was about 15 to 20 feet to the left, but facing the same direction as the dining room window. I stayed knelt, timidly but curiously grasping the curtain. I ever so slowly pulled back the cloth, only to gaze upon the masked fellow who was snooping around behind my property. This time, I saw his entire head. The mask had a gaping, dangling mouth, similar to the mask used in the Scream series. The only difference was the jaw in this particular mask was swaying about in the wind, and it also had teeth. Long, thin, fang-like growths that appeared almost like the strands hanging from the mouth of a whale, though fewer in number. The expression on the mask was plain, and the color was rather pale with a slight gray discoloration. It didn't have a goofy smile or an intimidated stare, just a mouth hanging wide open and a couple of perfectly round, beady little chameleon eyes eerily shaded. After about 10 seconds of observing, one of the eyes appeared as if it was steadily drifting off where it was fixated and very slowly began to scan to the left, and as soon as he seemed to lock onto where I was, he quickly disappeared. I don't really know my neighbor, much less all his decorations. I noticed a new ornament of sorts in front of his door today. It was a ceramic bowl of guts, comically placed where he would place a bowl of candy where he was too lazy to answer the door for trick-or-treaters. Behind it was a large white piece of paper bound to the wall of his house. On it was written in nearly illegible chicken scratch, "Take one." The whole sign had bloody fingerprints smeared all over it. More convincing was the bloody tape and the bloody wall. Nearly the entire wall was smeared in brownish red. Spooky. The streams of blood that ran down the fingerprints were, strangely enough, dry. I didn't know they made novelty blood that could dry like that. I've only spoken to this guy once, and it was around the time that I moved. He seemed rather distraught. As I approached him, I asked if everything was alright. He said he was late for work, which was odd because it was around 8:30 at night. I asked him where he worked, and he revealed to me that he was a biologist and worked at the military base, with no other details. It was strange. Every time I saw him after that encounter, his pants had traveled up to his ankles another centimeter. Midlife growth spurt, I guess. He was henceforth stumbling around, walking awkwardly and tripping over himself. My other neighbors and I mocked him from time to time. I remember one specific instance when he was watering his shrubbery, and one of his knees gave out, backwards, kind of like a large bird's leg, a pelican, or perhaps a heron. It looked excruciating to me, but he just walked it off. I've only seen him outside again once after this play, and it was months ago. And last month, as I walked to the mailbox late one afternoon, I heard his kids crying frantically, screaming almost. It continued into the evening. The noise stopped eventually, though. I was having trouble sleeping through that horrifying racket. I sincerely hoped that he had his parenting privileges revoked. However, I've never even seen his kids. Let's hope he's only an uncle. Ever since James arrived earlier this week, he has simply abhorred the idea of removing his costume. Little Buzz has been running rampant throughout the house quoting Toy Story. He hasn't disrobed once since he put it on, save for when I demanded he allow me to wash it because it was literally rolling around outside in the dirt. I haven't seen any more of this weirdo in the mask lately. Probably some mischievous kid from the neighborhood behind mine. It's a cul-de-sac too, just a bigger one. There's a dirt road that accompanies an irrigation canal separating the two neighborhoods. My house is the farthest house from the main road, and the canal runs parallel to my fence. I don't know of any bridge he could use to come across, but I never looked back there, and I don't particularly care to. Neighborin brought a new ornament, 200 feet of lights to accompany the 200 feet of intestines he had previously thrown all over the tree in his front yard. The lights coexist uniquely with the pride decor, though. Although I can smell, all I smelled when I went outside was the burning over the silzen and symbol of mixed max decorations hanging from a tree. The moisture of those oddly genuine-looking innards had adhered to his arched festive bulbs, producing a deep red glow. Intentional or not, the smell was almost scares a complaint out of me. Almost. Come to think of it, the smell wasn't so bad. Almost a barbecue. I'm going insane. No simply words can properly describe what I believe I've witnessed. As the sun was setting this evening, I got another glimpse of this masked man. What I saw now was not at all what I would describe as a mask. I was sitting in my living room reading. The bay window in my living room overlooks the entire street, and I had my blinds open. I had started and looked at the window toward the nearly dissipated sun, because I had heard what sounded like an asthmatic man gasping for air through a megaphone over top of a vocal frightened cat. I stood up from my couch and watched briskly from the window. I kept my hands above my eyes to tear the sunlight and pressed my face against the window, and I saw it. It was pursuing a small cat. It ran like an ostrich. Where where it was not bald and discolored, it was spotted with long patches of spindly hairs and networks of pulsating blue veins. Thin and isolated strands of gray hair flat across its flaky, decomposing head. Its flapping, low-hung chin keeping risen with its bounding stride as the sprinting thing began to overtake a creature built for agility. Ultra-thin, ultra-broad shoulders dutifully bounded up and down in harmony with its tree branch-like arms. Easily giving it a 5-foot reach. Mammoth hands, chopstick fingers, and those repulsive chameleon eyes. Buckets of drool spilled impatiently from its hellish teeth. Emaciated, stilt-like legs completed the horrific image. Altogether, I observed an 8.5-foot freak show of greasy hair, practically leaping from yard to yard, chasing this poor kitten, for a reason obstinately behind simple substance. The cat approached a fence on the left side of the street. It left towards a delusion of safety. The beast proceeded to fairly jump on the sidewalk over the lawn and snatch the animal from the top of the fence with its talon-like claws as if talon might. The cat didn't stand a chance, nor did it manage to voice a squeal. The thing disappeared into the shadows with its meal, an unforgettable 2.5 seconds. Then I thought of my son. He could have he could have been in the same place as that planet's animal. No, I should never say such names. Regardless, what am I to do? Forgo what little time I have had throughout the year with my boy because of scary monsters on the loose? Tell my ex-wife that my neighborhood is in the middle of nowhere that has become too dangerous for a son to stay with me. Buy a rifle and hunt the thing myself? No matter. With only 2 days until Halloween, I doubt there will be any more trouble. I've thought about calling the police, but what for exactly? I definitely couldn't call in and report a burglar, or even anything humor for that matter, because they wouldn't be looking for what I needed to be caught. No one can know. Earlier tonight, my new neighbors threw a street-wide costume party at their place down the entrance of the street. I didn't go because I had to work late, and after I picked up James from his friend's house, we anticipated having a game night with just the two of us. Sometime during the night, James took a bathroom break. He was gone for about 15 minutes. When he returned, he seemed excited to inform me that he looked out the living room window in between the blinds and what he described as a really tall, weird-looking person with a bag run impatiently to the house where the party was held, empty bag in hand. According to James, it would disappear into the backyard of the house and then seconds later bolt out of the yard with a full bag and tear off, tear off towards my neighbor's house wearing a costume. It repeated this process several times, and each time wearing a different costume before. He said on its last run, it stopped in the middle of the street, cocked its head to the right slightly, and its right eye slid to the side of its head and stared right at him if there was no blinds in between them. He said that it turned its head 180 degrees and locked eye contact with him, and then its colossal mouth sluggishly transformed from a probing expression to the widest smile he thought he'd ever seen. Millions of teeth were the exact words. He said that its smile had hastily collapsed, dropping the chin into a visible free fall, which ended with a swinging slap on his chest. It then darted into my reclusive neighbor's yard, and that's when James decided to come alert me of his findings. I thought of that horrid monster smiling at my beautiful boy. I despised the idea. I tried to envision what that particular smile would be like, though I really couldn't. I didn't think a flapping maw that gargantuan had the muscle to maneuver that flailing chin in the first place. Then again, it has to eat sometime. More decorations were stuffily as always, erected by my mysterious neighbor. A couple dozen or so skeletons, all different sizes, all dressed up in cliché Halloween attire. There was a Marilyn Monroe skeleton, a Darth Vader skeleton, an Abraham Lincoln skeleton, so on and so forth. Every one of them was strung up by the back of its neck, feet swinging, head looking down. I really wanted to ask this guy how he comes up with all this, where he gets it all. Perhaps if he knows that last night's rain washed out the color of his little knickknacks. Gotta hand him to it, though. That slew of morbid decoration in combination with his filthy, rundown cobweb-covered home emits a true horror movie film. It's now just past midnight. I just got finished with my work. I brushed my teeth, and now the doorbell's ringing. Again, and again, and again. Reluctantly, I rise up and walk towards my front door. I open it. It's my neighbor. No, the freak next door. But the fellow who lives behind me on the other side of the canal. He's disgruntled. He's practically out of breath and is threatening me about something, but none of it sinking in because one of the skeletons is hanging from my neighbor's tree. A newcomer is staring right at me. Its jaw unhinged unlike the others. It's smaller than the other skeletons and appears to be dripping with something. Moonlight revealed to me its eyes. Big blue eyes. I turned to face the man yelling at me. You listening over there? Oh yeah. The hell are you trying to pull? You almost gave me a heart attack with that mask. Apparently my son and I aren't the only ones who have spotted the neighborhood's missing link. How could he possibly confuse that thing with me? And don't try to smooth talk your way out of this, pal. I saw you jump clean over that fence of yours. The hell you managed to do that? I was still wondering and crawled back in your basement. It's dark and all, but no doubt you, pal. I'm Terribly sorry, I improvised. I didn't know what came over me. If there's anything I can do, my heart sank. Wait here. There's no way. I run like a fool into my own house because this asshole bangs on my door at 12:15 in the morning and told me that he saw this thing jump into my basement. With my trembling hands applying convulsion energy to the doorknob, I turned and flinged the door wide open to reveal my son sleeping, facing the wall, just as I left him. Figures. He's never all the way under the covers like that, but it's a bit cold in here. God damn, though, that this guy at my door really has some nerve. He scared the shit out of me. Sorry, he interrupted. Aw, save it. I ain't got no shits about all your damn problems. Y'all just stay the hell away from me and my family. You hear? Yeah, sure. A common chuckle digs its way into his angry tone as I recognize those freshly familiar, bottomless blue eyes stuffed inside the head of that skeleton. I gotta hand it to y'all, though. I nearly busted out laughing when I saw you running around wearing that little kid's Buzz Lightyear costume.